Hello, everyone. Welcome again. I'd like to introduce you again to Captain Leo Walton, and we're going to carry on talking about the Giza Park Protocol, How to Start the Sun, which is Leo's book. But last time, have you got the book, Leo, just to show
I
everybody where we
do.
got to?
Is that the key?
There you go. Right, everybody. So we had such a phenomenal response from the last episode that we're going to continue this. There's too much to talk about in 1 hour. But if you think you know what the pyramids are, well, this is going to absolutely change everything. So if you think you know, you don't know yet. And last time we discussed, well, actually, the very first episode we discussed Leo's background, why he knows all this knowledge and all that fantastic stuff. So I suggest you go back to the very first episode that I did. But last time, which is probably about a month ago, we started everything off framing where the Earth is in relation to Sirius and our local star, because we live in a binary star system. That was the biggest kind of thing that we dropped, didn't we, there? So we explained how that binary star system worked. And just to let you know how where this is going, we're going to be working towards how the pyramids work, but we started to frame it in terms of kind of the cosmic relationship of things
That's right.
and also how the Earth is made. But as we had that discussion, Leo, we had some discussions online, and I said, you were talking about the magnetic pole shift, and a lot of my friends have noticed that the sun is not setting where it used to be. And I said, hey, Leo, does your model help explain why this has happened? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's cyclic and it occurs over and over again over a cycle of about 24,000 year cycle, which just to touch base on, if you want to show that drawing of the great year, to give everyone an idea, and I'll just touch base on that.
yeah.
Kind of catch things up. We'll start at the cosmos and then work into the core of the earth. How's that?
Exactly.
It's kind of the way it works.
Hopefully, you can see that now.
Yes,
Yeah,
perfect.
great.
Okay, this is the Vedic cycle. They call it the Great Year.
Yeah.
It's a 24,000 year cycle. And I've also integrated it in this chart to show the relationship of the different ages that we have, like age of Aries and Aquarius. And I kind of coordinated the time frames based on, I worked a lot off of information that I've gotten from volcanic studies and whatnot. But anyhow, what I've done here is create the whole cycle to show with the sun being completely the opposite end of this as far as you can go from Ceres on the other side. And that is what I was believing that the Mayans on December the 21st, 2012, when their calendars ended, is they could not predict, they were very good astronomers, they could not predict the actual influence that Ceres and the sun getting closer together. So that's where we're at right now. We've got the sun and Ceres having been the entire humanity, they've been moving away from each other. Now they're moving closer together. And I tie these cycles in when you look at populations like in Cappadocia in Turkey, where 20,000 people live below the ground, complete with their livestock, everything. There's reasons for that. Anyway, let's move on.
Great, yeah. So guys, it's very, very important you have a look at this episode we did before because it frames all this because this isn't widely taught stuff, and this is why it's fantastic to have you on, Leo, to explain this. And anybody born before 2012, just imagine how special, your life is because you were before and after
That's
in a
right.
completely different era.
Exactly. Yes,
Fantastic.
very exactly. So you were saying that people were starting to notice that the sun was setting maybe a little further to the north.
This is right. Yeah. So
Uh,
I've got friends that have been going to Spain and also the UK, and they've already worked out that you have to pay attention to the sky and not just read books, because what is going on isn't really predicted and it isn't really what they say. And a friend of mine has been going to the same place in Spain, and one's gone into Portugal because they can see more of the sun than we can, right? And they've said it's setting a bit further north, and they wondered why that was.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So let's back up a little bit so I can explain what I believe is going on.
Hmm.
In that whole procession of the equinoxes or the great year, the earth has a natural wobble that it does as it goes through this cycle. People don't realize right now that the magnetic, if you want to show this, the drawing I did of the magnetic North Pole, the one on the planet.
Yep. So guys, we're going to shift between a few different pictures here, so it's quite difficult to
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
otherwise. So you want this big one?
Yes, that one I think would be a good one to show right now. I want to concentrate on the number at the bottom, 1850, or let's say 1904. You
All
can
right.
see 1850 and 1904 going the same direction. But let's just keep it more recent at 1904 and look at where the magnetic field is now in 2020.
Wow.
So we're talking 115 years. That's how far the magnetic North Pole has moved. It's moved so far in Fairbanks, Alaska, from where the North Pole has been for so long that they had to build a new runway to
That's
land
incredible.
airplanes because the airplanes land using the GPS coordinates and they were off that far, so they had to build an entire new runway. But anyway, look, I've also, while we're here, a good time, show the scale of humans, and we'll throw that in while we've got this information all together. The one that shows the heights.
Yep. Let me just go back in here. This one.
Right. Part of my research, it goes with this. This is a typical difference in human height over generations and
Wow.
civilizations. I'm going back ancient times. But anyway, show the other one that's got the scale Yes, that one right here. What's that called? Eight, I think it is. Yes, that one. That's the reason I want to use that time frame because this graph shows what human height was in different countries in 1896 to 1996. So we're dealing with a 100-year period. So we can see
I'm going to try and put
how
them on
much the
together.
height difference in humans on the
Wow.
planet has changed just in that same time period.
Look at this. Wow, that's incredible. That's really, oh, so,
It's amazing, and I've been doing this research on the heights of humans because they found giants all over the world,
yep,
and they disappear, they vanish.
right.
And I went back and I went and did a lot of research on dinosaurs and the tallest creatures that's walked the planet, and I came up with an average logarithm of the tallest one from a hip bone measurement. I did these calculations and I created a logarithm and figured out what the average height the man was at this current time and
Hmm.
figured out what man would have been back then. And man would have been 11 feet, 11 inches tall, is what my
Wow. So you're saying
calculations
that,
came out
that
to
the
be.
average height of man is like changed all over this time? Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get it on the screen at the same time and I'm not pressing very well.
And it's amazing how nobody puts these things together.
Wow. So like literally people are not talking about this correlation when,
No, no.
wow, this is
What has
incredible.
happened? What has happened with our science, the way we approach science, that they fragmented it so much and made it so specialized. Nobody friggin' talks to each other.
Yes, right.
Okay? And they don't want you talking to each other. They don't want you figuring it out. It
Yeah.
must be. If they want to know this information, it would be gathered and taught to everyone. And that's what I feel about with pyramid research. We got to get our heads out of the tombs and stick them into the cosmos and look at these systems from a macro, cosmetic, planetary. It's all indigenous to us on this planet. It's part of
Well
the
said.
terraforming process. But
This is
anyway, okay,
incredible.
next pick. You got another
This
one?
is this is incredible, guys. You're hearing this first, and it makes a lot of sense. Absolutely makes a lot of sense that the magnetic field is going to affect how big things can get. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but it wasn't obvious to correlate it. So well done, Leo.
All right, thank you.
Where are we going next?
Let's look at the one that's showing the magnetic field coming out of the earth. Is that number 7?
Number 7, yeah.
Yeah. Just to show everybody, this is how the magnetic field, and it comes from the center of the earth. So we'll touch base here with the center and we move on further.
Yep.
But all of this energy, the core of the earth is the size of the moon. Its composition is 85% iron and 10% nickel, and the rest is just oddly different minerals. But anyway, our system rotates at the core of the Earth the opposite direction that the Earth rotates, and the temperature is equal to the surface of the sun. Nobody talks about this, nobody explains it. Why is it that the core of the Earth is rotating the opposite direction
Hmm.
and it maintains a temperature equal to the surface of the sun?
Some.
Interesting. You
Yeah.
want to go to my little balls that I created there for a lecture before? Go on down.
These ones here.
No, didn't I send? Uh-oh, maybe they're not on there. Hold on, go back up. I can only see. Yeah, here you go. Here, go on to number 4 there.
Number 4.
All right, here's a picture I took of a little ball that I took. And you're going to see how I modified it with the sun coming in the window. I thought it was appropriate. But go to the next one.
Number 5 or back.
The one right beside it there. It's cut in
This one. Yeah.
half.
Hmm.
And this is what I did. I created that Earth model. I scooped it out, took a little golf ball, and I took and put the sun and the moon on each side, and I'm showing how they set and operate together. And I show the core of the Earth rotating in a straight up and down way. But then go
Right.
to the next one. So basically, this is what's creating our magnetic field. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
I took this copper wire and wrapped around this ball just as a demonstration to show you a pretty simple visual of how this works.
Hmm.
Okay, this is not rocket science at all. This
No.
is just elementary paying attention to what's going on.
Wow.
But anyway, what's happening, this copper wire, with Cirrus getting closer, the speed of the core of the Earth is increasing in rotation RPMs, revolutions per minute. Okay?
Yep.
So that is causing the magnetic field to expand further up into space. Okay? What this is causing is the north magnetic field to move. Okay? This moves so far that we literally, during this transition, have 4 different North Stars. It takes that long for the North magnetic field to move that far. All right, let's go to another. Let me see what you got up there.
Yep.
All right, now to explain what they're talking about with the sun setting further to the north. Show
Hmm.
number 1 image.
Hmm.
Perfect. Okay, what you're seeing here, you see the circle. It looks like a funnel at the top and a funnel at the bottom. Well, that is literally the wobble of the earth. Okay, the earth actually moves in over and back and forth and back and forth. So if we look at it like a top, okay, go to the top pictures. Did you get one of
Yeah,
them
yeah, I've
that
got the
might do
top.
the glyph?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, is that the one that
Mm,
spins? I got
It's
one that spins real good and one not so good. I
it's
want the one that spins really good.
oh, this one doesn't, I don't think I've got it to spin. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
It's
Oh,
like it's a
don't worry
JPEG,
about it.
sorry. But I've got this.
Okay.
We'll try
Anyway,
this
what
one.
happens when a top spins, like the Earth?
Mhm.
It develops a certain frequency that it stays in that rotation. If you know when you watch a top and it winds down, it starts to wobble.
Mhm.
Well, that is the Earth. And with the core of the Earth speeding up, it's causing the magnetic field to go out, but it's causing our wobble to shift. So we're going to be tracing across this wobble. Go down a little
Yeah,
bit.
so,
Let me
sorry, it
see.
hasn't quite come out right. But you know what I do have as well? I have this.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Is that live? You can make it
Yeah.
glyph. All right. This
Well,
is
we can press
actually a
play.
rotary. What I want to show is what's happening to the Earth.
Oh, sugar, hang
Is
on. So I'm
yeah.
trying to make it a bit bigger enough.
There you go. All right. You can see when it's rotating at high speed. Okay, look at it. It looks like it wants to disintegrate. That is what's happening to the earth right now. The earth was it was in its groove and spinning fine, and now the planets have gotten the two suns have gotten so close together that it's throwing everything out. So the earth is going to be going through a huge transformation for thousands of years.
Right. So is this how long? So what sort of time periods? I mean, how long is this going to go over, do you think?
It's going to take our more than our lifetimes and generations, in thousands of years. I haven't set to kind of put a number on that, but you can show that precession one again here if you want. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
it's again it's
And that's a good one. It shows the precessional cycle, which is my drawing that I did with the ages and everything on it. So this is what it is in reality. The
hmm
natural wobble is our precession.
that makes sense then, doesn't it? That it what we're
Yeah,
perceiving is changing. Um, and by the way, we are going to go on to the fact that there are things that can be done on the earth that then affects or the impact that that wobble or and those changes can have on our planet, right?
exactly. Oh, it's going to have immense changes on the planet.
Mhm.
Um,
Which one
we're
would you like?
talking about an increase in, we've already seen it if you're paying any attention, but we've already seen an increase in volcanic activity. Earthquakes are going to increase. Land mass disassociations. If it will be, my prediction is it will be during this cycle that's coming up that's going to cause some really big real estate changes in California, probably a lot of the east coast of America, probably even in I believe that the Mississippi River is eventually going to be probably several miles wide everywhere. It's going to connect up to the lakes eventually. I believe all that's going to happen. If you're looking at all the tectonic plate activity and the way this system's designed and how the mechanisms are changing and how they're variable. It's cyclic and variable. It's which is the norm. That's nature.
That's natural. hmm So there's some things for people to consider then. Why do you think that, this isn't widely known? Why aren't people being told about this? Do you think that it's because people don't know, or do some people know and some people don't know? What would you think?
Uh, I don't see as a human race that we're getting more intelligent. I see that the disconnection from nature and natural cycles, I think is by design, not to disconnect us from that, to where we cannot be the best as far as humans can be. We've become connected to the sources that we're created from.
Hmm.
So I don't see them trying to entertain any kind of information that's going to make us better.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be what's going on. But as individuals with access to the internet and access with two eyes and
That's
common
right.
sense, we
That's
can
right.
start to figure these things out because effectively what you're saying is don't rely on being told this stuff.
No,
And and it's
no.
and it's
Like
also
I
what the
say, everything's so fragmented that you get just this from this person, just this from this person, and nobody's working together
yeah,
to solve real issues.
absolutely. So where would you like to go now on the deck?
Well, do you think we covered that pretty good on
I
the?
think you've covered that very
All
good.
right,
And
you
what I
want
didn't
to
probably
talk about how the planets correlate and work with energies at the pyramid systems? Would you
yeah.
like to continue with that direction?
Yeah, let's continue with that direction. But before we do, guys, please go outside and watch things. You can't just go outside today and have a look and go, oh, that's there. You have to watch things change. You have to, like for instance, outside my house is a couple of stars that are very bright. They're the brightest stars in the sky. Now, star doesn't just mean it's a sun. If you go look at the dictionary definition, it says a luminous object in the night sky, right? So that's the definition I'm using here. And they've appeared, they're brighter than any other star, and it's new. They weren't there before. And they've been there for, I don't know, several weeks or maybe a month or two. And this is happening all the time, right? But no one talks about it. So you have to pay attention. You have to see what's there normally, what changes. You have to use your eyes, use your common sense, and start looking at this stuff because this is how we find things out by paying attention and not just looking. This is what I see people do. Like there's a guy that I know, and he's got like a massive telescope, and I was talking to him about it. He goes, "Well, I haven't seen it," and I said, "Barb." But what you do is you look at your telescope, you put in some coordinates, and you go and see what's already programmed in. So you're not observing, you are observing things that you're being told to observe. So you can't see it. So, and this is the thing that we have to get away from. So guys, get your eyes and ears and senses and go and check some things out. Right, Leo?
That's right. Well, they've trained us to look down all the time. We need to start looking up
Yeah.
and paying attention to what's going on above our heads rather than what we're holding in our hand.
Yeah. And if you want to kickstart for that, guys, read the book because it's very, very well written. It's not a difficult read. It's very straightforward. And when you start to read it, you go, well, that makes a lot of sense. Why didn't the teachers that at school? So yes, guys, get on that. So where would
Thanks,
you like
Joe.
to? It's okay. It's really, really good.
All right. Let's see. I don't think we have any images to go beyond this.
Okay. So then we'll start
Where
talking
would
then,
you
shall we?
like to plunge? We can go head first in any direction you want to go in.
You know,
Uh,
I'd
uh,
love to understand because we've had these changes, although we're going through this big change now, as
yes,
Sirius was like the furthest away, it's now on its way back. So this is a totally different experience than we had before, since 2012. It's a totally different experience up until
right.
2012. So any of you that were born in like the 60s, the 70s, the 50s, the 80s, you'll feel that things are very different because they are. What I'm fascinated with is over this time, though, there has always been lots of changes. And what I've noticed, but not in the detail you have, is that there are structures on this earth that are also part of balancing or changing or enhancing or whatever the situation that we're in. I mean, we don't want to be that spinning top and go crazy, right?
That's
There
right.
are ways that we can then, work with the Earth's magnetic field with the knowledge of understanding how the cosmos works in order to counterbalance or enhance certain aspects of what's happening. So we're not just, I don't
Absolutely.
know, like a tree in the wind. We can, and it is possible to do things to counteract or balance these things. And this is where your work absolutely fascinates me. So take it in whatever direction that
All
leads
right,
you
well,
in,
let's
Leo.
continue on that. What I learned from doing the research, particularly in Egypt, because of the three pyramid systems, I consider I feel as if I've determined their function and purpose. I don't understand all the details about the Bosnian ones and the Teotihuacan ones, not like the multiple systems I've done in Egypt. I understand them from Hawara, Lake Maurice, all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. So I've done reverse engineering on those,
Mhm.
and I kind of lost my train of thought there. Kicked me in the right direction. I think I was
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
off on a tangent.
About the Egyptian system even more. And by the way, I'm going to try and see if I can find some images from the first time to see whether they might be relevant. But we were talking about how systems have been created that can then
Right,
counterbalance
that's
or
right.
enhance the earth. Yeah.
Indigenous. And what I learned with the Egyptian system is they paid so much attention to detail to not whatever they created energy sources, and I've measured over 100 scalar energy fields at the Giza Plateau, and there's more than that.
Wow.
And they've combined all these together to create really powerful things going on there, connected them to the planets and all. But what they also did is the water that circulates through these systems that doesn't get used. They've actually designed a system coming out of the Great Pyramid that's got a really long causeway on it. I said, why is there such a long causeway coming out of the Great Pyramid to run into the Nile? Everything doesn't run and circulate back into the Nile. It's very controlled. Okay, so that's the only place it goes to the Nile from the
Hmm.
Giza Plateau. I said, why is that? Why is it when you walk out of the Great Pyramid, there's this huge area you could make soccer field on? So it's so big and it's all black granite. The whole slabs are, that was to pull the heat out of the water that didn't get used in the process, and the long causeway was to bring the temperature of the water down to where it would not create any change once it ran into the Nile. They
This is
did
a
not,
huge system you're
they
talking
did
about.
not influence it in any way
Wow.
except in a direction that they were headed in, which was to add plasma to it.
So this isn't, we're talking about enormous systems, and I've managed to find an
Enormous.
image like here. So it's just plants on here. So we're talking about huge systems, right?
That's
Over
right.
hundreds, or I mean, how big is it from say here down to here? How many
It's
miles?
144 miles
Wow.
all the way across the. This is an older drawing I
Yeah.
had, but that's all right. This one shows it pretty good. If you look at this, this is actually the Taurus constellation. We've been believing for a long time that the Orion constellation with three stars of the belt
Hmm.
lined up with the pyramid systems. And there's probably millions of stars that line up with the pyramid systems, and these are definitely bright enough that they correspond pretty close. But as far as the blueprint of the Egyptian system, that was the constellation Taurus, and I believe this is why all Egyptians worship the bull. The Apis bull was the most worshipped animal. I think the Indians still worship them. Israel, everyone worship the bull. They honor the bull. Okay, and there's over 14 different locations that align not only with uh, the constellations of Taurus, but also you got to include the Pleiades, which actually aligns at the octagon, which is the Egyptian military complex of all the militaries, and it's octagon, which is the Great Pyramid's eight-sided. Come on. You see a connection. It's 33 miles away from the Sphinx, due east. So it's quite an interesting. Somebody knows what the layout's supposed to be. But anyway, it's just so geniusly designed, even from the pump mechanism. You're talking about a perpetual operating pump that could pump 3,200 psi of water through those systems there.
That is incredible. I mean, and this is where, you guys, if you go back to the first interview we did, this is your area of expertise was all about, working with marine, submarines, things like this, on
Sure.
nuclear power and pumps. And that's a very important part of many systems is how you move water or mass around, right?
That's right. Yeah, I've had such a, well, I was a nuclear, I constructed nuclear reactors for aircraft carriers, frigates, and submarines, naval vessels.
Hmm.
And I did refuel on the USS Enterprise. The aircraft carrier had 8 reactors on it. Man, I'm talking about, whoa, 8, the fastest ship ever built. They never
Wow.
got it up to top speed because they afraid it was going to fly apart at the seams. If you
Yeah.
can imagine that kind of a vessel at 70 miles an hour,
Wow.
I mean, incredible, just incredible. But that's why the Starship Enterprise in the series was named after it because it's just an awesome vessel. And it's been a real honor to have worked on that, even though I may glow in the dark now.
But this is the thing, it's like you're kind of, you've had all of this experience, you had your
That's
awakening,
right.
which is an incredible story. And I mean, and you are not an advocate at all, are you, for kind of nuclear weapons and all this kind of
No,
stuff,
oh
exactly.
golly, no.
But it's but your knowledge, because you had to go through all that.
That's
We
right.
we all know from our little experience of kind of films and things like that that actually heat generation is and working out how to cool these big systems down is a real art form. That is the tricky part, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing. The more I've gotten involved in it, well, nuclear, you're dealing at scalar levels,
Right.
and you're dealing alpha, beta, and gamma. And here I am now determining all of these plasma identifications on systems and functions, and that's the purpose of the Great Pyramid is to produce plasma. Well, plasma contains gamma. Okay, so
Wow.
gamma. Now, what's different between those 3 radiation waves, alpha and beta, or particles? Okay, so you need a different instrument to measure them. But gamma radiation is electromagnetic frequency. It is the snake running across the ground, okay? It is the naga, plasma,
So,
gamma.
so, so this is fascinating because, of course, our brains, when they sync, we're in different kind of brainwave function. Is there any correlation between kind of gamma rays and us and the
Well, it's
kind
kind of how they measure them.
of
Yeah. It has to be a correlation.
yeah.
And even I had a sister who was big into, she was actually famous on the East Coast in America. They were kind of like Ghostbusters. And
Okay.
they had all this electronic equipment they used to go around and stuff like that. And the last time I was around them, she's deceased now. But anyway, miss you, sis. And her husband had his device out to show me, and the alarms start going off on it. He says, Leo, he says, I got to tell you, he says, I'm a little uncomfortable with the readings I'm getting on you. He says, I've never ever gotten readings like this from a human that was alive.
Wow.
But anyway, so they did a lot of study in that and a lot of research, and they keep relating it to like a plasma field is what these spirits related to. They literally can measure them
Wow.
in enclosed spaces, like they go in hauntings. That's where they were called. People would go call them, say, this place is weird. And they would go and measure, and they could measure these frequencies in there. So maybe they were measuring in gamma.
That's
Maybe,
incredible. That you're both kind of on this similar journey with plasma, and I've got the ionosphere, the aurora borealis. This is
yeah,
all
you
related to
do.
plasma,
That's
and
right.
plasma, the fourth phase of water,
That's
um,
right.
and it's just something that it seems to me that between you and I, we've been picking up so many things that are related to plasma. When you can understand what plasma is and its potential, you can see its different applications, and it just depends on how you look at it. So in my work, I'm thinking of the plasma field in terms of communication,
Sure.
and how you can, for instance, control whole areas and what information people can download and upload and what they think, how to, in
Certainly.
terms of that, using the plasma field. But there are other applications. I mean, you think, how did they generate the plasma? And for me, pyramids, for instance, or those structures have three different purposes. I mean, they can be used for healing, they're used for communication, as I just mentioned,
Certainly.
and energy generation. And I find that people are just looking at the one thing. So, as your book is called "How to Start the Sun," how does that
That's right.
relate to these structures?
Well, how to start the sun. If you go back and remember anything Hermes Trismegistus
Hmm.
quotes from him, the very last statement he made in when his Hermetic codes that he came out with, okay? At the very last statement he says, my work, my solar work here is complete.
Wow.
It is ready to operate. He says, if you use these methods every time, you will know how to start the sun.
Wow.
So it's a quote from him in that regard. And I believe understanding the components, which is planetary, cosmically, the helical rise of Sirius, huge, huge celebrations still today in Egypt that they have certain factions there celebrate
Hmm.
this event because they said that's when the rains began. And
Right.
they said it's when the Nile would flood and we could grow food because it's all sand there. It's all sand, which is high concentration of piezoelectricity. Okay,
Yeah.
but you need some soil to grow crops in. However, my theories, and I believe my theories, it's going to take 100 years for them to prove me absolutely correct.
Hmm.
But I think it's going to take them a long time, and they're going to find out that we need to start looking differently and paying attention to these things. But I believe that period of time, which was around the summer solstice
Hmm.
event, and what they call the Lion's Gate portal. Here we
Hmm.
go again. So now we're bringing the Sphinx involved in it symbolically, maybe. Uh, so what is the Sphinx telling us? Well, I did a lot of research on that. I don't want to get off on that tangent, but tells us it's a diurnal system and has a certain time frame it works during the year, and it's the cycle. Sirius disappears for 70 days a year,
Hmm.
and it's telling us that it's the same as the gestation period of the lion on having the cub to bring back to show the father. It's interesting cycles if you tie those in indigenously. But anyway, if the planetary alignment on the summer solstice, the sun is at 63 degrees, Ceres is at 114 degrees. And in every every hour that the sun rises, it moves 15 degrees. So in 3 hours, so the sun comes up at 63 degrees all around the world because it's at the Tropic of Cancer. So every system that's designed in this model is influenced by 63 degrees. Bosnia, 63. The Pyramid of Love, is built. It's the only thing crooked in Bosnia. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All of them are perfectly aligned, east, west, north, south. Pyramid of Love is 60 degrees.
3 degrees. Wow.
60 degrees. All right. Why is that? Why is that? Anyway, you
Wow.
go to Mexico, everything functions at 63 degrees. The sun, same. You go to
So,
the volcanoes, major volcanoes, 63 degrees. Another common thing is where Jerusalem is built, 63 degrees. And you draw a line straight from the sunrise through Jerusalem and it hits the Sphinx right in the chest.
wow. That's incredible. So, we are not in the age of enlightenment now. We've all gone backwards, haven't we? Because
We
all of
have gone
this,
way
we've
backwards.
gone way backward. But now, hopefully, we're moving into this new era now, and
I
it's all
think we are. I think these frequency changes, it's inevitable. I think it's going to become more feminine because of the influence of Sirius. I
hmm
mean, with these two huge, and you got to realize the power difference of Sirius, okay? And it's in a negative way. So that's what's causing the core of the Earth to rotate it's pulling it like a magnet.
hmm
So as it gets closer to us, it's going to rotate it faster, which
Yeah,
means
yeah.
that the electromagnetic field just goes out further. The
hmm
bad part of that is the further out into space our electromagnetic field goes out into space, the more comet impacts we're going to have on the surface of the Earth because a lot of these comets are metallic. They're iron, they're nickel, and they're attracted to our electromagnetic field. Now they may just go by every so many thousand years and just look at us and wave. Now we're reaching out and go touch someone.
Ah, right. Okay. So that's not the double edge of that sword. And by the
That's
way,
right.
everybody,
That's right.
please go and see the first episode because although we're speaking here in terms of, solid objects and globe Earth and things like this can be easily translated into a flat Earth and an electromagnetic field only model. But we're speaking about it in these terms because that's how it's being explained. So we don't get on either of those bandwagons because they're both true. It depends on your perspective. It depends on how you are looking at something. So we don't want to get involved in that, do we, Leo? Because
No.
we're using. Leo has done a great job in he's being able to use the data that is definitely available because the
Yeah.
flat earth or the magnetic model stuff isn't so readily available but could easily be translated. But anyway, I just want to digress a little bit and bring us back to the part of the book where I was reading about the ice age
Yeah.
and how we got out of this ice age because you've got a great theory and model on that, right?
Oh my golly, yeah. I did a lot on that. What happened, le- and let's, what really happened with this is the Great Pyramid. I became the mashed potato guy with the Great Pyramid. And for years and years and years, I thought its main function was to produce hydrogen until I learned more. I studied harder, learned every time you're in this and you're staying with it, pick up bits and pieces. And I'm a good scientist. As soon as I find something that changes what the direction I'm going, I change direction and go with the evidence. As a forensics investigator, courtroom expert witness, hey, just show me the evidence.
hmm
That's what, and like with the guys with the SARS team doing all of they've got a great tool with what they're doing with this satellite archaeology, but they couldn't go to court. They ain't got nothing to take there. I got so much evidence, and
hmm
that's what I'm about. I'm about coming up with new ideas, chasing them down to see where they go. But anyway, the Great Pyramid is I call it the Swiss Army knife. It has so many functions, and it's why it should always stay the Great Pyramid. It really is magnificent. It's not the biggest, to my knowledge, right now, until another one pops up bigger. Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is just magnificent, off the wall chart, real pyramid with a function. And the two of these systems work together. As a matter of fact, I've tied in absolutely the systems of Egypt, the Egypt of Bosnia, and Egypt of Teotihuacan. These systems were all constructed, operated in synchronicity during the same time frame. And everything is much older than the Egyptian culture. I'm dating it 34,000 from 36 to 32,000 BC. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
have a little margin in there, and even that could be off astronomically. So that's what we've got these systems all working together. But I ended up once I figured out the Great Pyramid, realized that it's a much bigger system. Every one of these components here have a purpose. So that's what ended up happening. I
Mm-hmm.
went and I solved every one of them, reverse engineered every system, came up with my own ideas on what it would take to make the systems work. And there's been other great people along the way too, but specifically to Egypt, had something really unusual there. Let's go to Osiris's tomb. Okay, we've got a system. All the systems on top of the earth there are built perfectly aligned, like we were talking about with the Pyramid of the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's two above ground that are not perfectly aligned. It's a temple right in front of the Sphinx, and then the Wall of the Crows, 650-foot structures, 33 feet tall and 33 feet wide. Interesting numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, there's one other system that is so out of whack. And I said, I've got to look at that one
Mm-hmm.
first. And it's Osiris's tomb. And it's three levels. Maybe we'll go in depth on this with some good drawings because this is the second lecture I'm doing at Chicago.
That would be
Yep.
great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I'll give you some of that information I'm coming up with for our next interview.
Yeah. So
And
for everybody, you're going to be at the Global Pyramid Conference in Chicago. Well, what date is it?
on September the 26th through the 29th. I've got two lectures I'm doing there. The
Yeah.
first day, I'm doing a lecture on Saturday. I'm doing a lecture on the three uh, pyramid complexes that I've done the astronomical blueprints on to where Mexico aligns Teotihuacan to Aries, Bosnia to Pleiades, and Egypt to the Taurus, but I'm going to highlight mostly the Egyptian systems because so much more of it.
Great. So
And
if
the
anyone can
second,
get to anyone
go
can get to
ahead.
see Leo in person, please go.
Oh yeah,
If
come
you
on.
get, well, we'll
Yeah,
we'll bring you on after you've done that because you'll have all your drawings to be able to bring that in,
want
and
to do
then
that?
there's your
Yeah,
book
yeah.
because what you're saying makes so much sense. It's so fascinating, and I have never heard anybody being able to pull this together. So, yeah, sorry. Please carry on with your story about Osiris is
All
being
right.
out of whack, out of whack,
Okay,
Leo.
so it's out of whack. So in 1997, what I learned about Osiris's tomb uh, is J.J. Hurtak and his bride, Desiree, they were funded by ARE, Edgar Casey Group. That he's one of the largest private contributor, I think, to ever do Egyptian research in modern times. Anyway, they funded them to go down there because these tunnels were full of water. So they had just recently removed all the water to where you could go down there, and they were the first team to go down. And literally, they dug through the mud with their hands to uncover the tomb of Osiris. It's an interesting story they have to tell, go down infamously in history, I think. But
Hmm.
anyway, a year later, uh, Haiwas got involved in going down and doing all of the cleaning it up. He did a really fantastic job providing accurate documentation on the measurements. He literally created blueprints of the interior design and the directions and the angles and how everything lays. And
Hmm.
it's in three levels. And it goes down 108 feet,
Wow.
which is deep in the ground.
vast.
But
Yeah.
anyway, what I learned when I got in there and looking at all the wonderful information he provided me to work from is it was aimed. Now I'm a boat captain, so I use compass navigational aids. So I pick a direction. So I picked a direction of 243 is the angle that this particular system is targeting 243 degrees. And
Wow.
I'm like, why? So this is what began the Great Odyssey, I call it, which has led to all the other discoveries because I followed this degree, this angle out of Osiris's tomb. I used Google Earth. I set a coordinates of 243 degrees.
Yeah.
So I hit across, pretty much went across the whole entire Sahara Desert. All I saw was sand. I didn't see any structures. I didn't find any locations that warranted me to stop and dig deeper and spend some time there investigating. But I landed on the seashore of the Atlantic Ocean in Casablanca.
Wow.
So I'm like, here I've gone all the way across the African continent. I've landed on the seashore of Casablanca. Let's continue. So I end up going all the way across the Atlantic Ocean and I landed in Ocean City, Maryland, America.
Wow.
So I stopped there, kind of. I know that area, you know.
Yeah.
I live on Chesapeake Bay. That's where my sea spirit is. I know that area very well. So anyway, I said, well, that's pretty remarkable. So I've landed in Ocean City, Maryland harbor. I said, I'm gonna set the caliber, the distance meter at zero. I know I don't need to know the mileage from Egypt to here, So I went set it at zero, and I said, okay, I'm gonna follow 243 degrees and see where I go. So I'd move on down in a few minutes, I stopped at 111 miles. That was what the reading was. I couldn't believe where I landed. I landed on top of the Washington Monument,
Wow.
the
Yeah.
largest Egyptian obelisk in the world, which represents the phallus of Osiris.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I had to keep going over this and over this because I didn't believe it. I really didn't believe that it could be possible that Osiris's tomb was aimed at the Washington Monument. So anyway, what also caught my eye, if you understand Washington, D.C., you know that the Washington Monument basically is the lawn of the White House. And where did we leave Africa from? Casablanca? If you translate that to English, it's White House.
My
Uh, uh,
God.
uh, I mean, come on here.
Yeah.
So I've landed from White House,
Two weather.
Egypt, to White House, North America.
Wow. And when you say it like this and you go, wow, it's somebody must know, and this is, it sounds
I
like
think
feels someone must know, right?
I think the reason Washington D.C. is built where it was is by design.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So
And
let's just extrapolate that. Let's say that, this was built by design, and these areas are connected. Can you just postulate how what could it mean to have those two structures there? I mean, could communication happen between those two structures? What do you think? What do you think's going on, or what could go on theoretically?
uh, I think that where they placed it is upon a very powerful scalar, a ley line, grid line,
Mm.
whatever you want to call it. It's app that I created with all of my ley lines I put where I connected the volcano systems and all these in. I call it the Osiris line.
Yeah.
So I think it's you see why I call it the Osiris line. It comes from Osiris. It has a 555-foot phallus on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. Should we have a look? Should we see if I can quickly find where your website is? And do you remind me what it is, Leo? And we'll show people where they can go and have a look.
Well, my website's not up and live
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
If you want
Okay.
to wait for another one just to save them some headache and saying, I can't get his website, the publisher is actually filling that out for me now.
Great.
They're a
Okay.
little behind schedule on. I hope they have it up and running before we go to Chicago.
Great. So then on our next go, we'll have a look on the website. We'll use that to kind of direct people so people can visualize this stuff and
Okay.
connect with your stuff. That would be great. So we'll wait until all that's up and running. Because as a grid worker, I'm very fascinated and I'm always thinking about how the underground, not the underground, the kind of structures. I see like grids within grids, as in
That's
like
right.
there's like it depends on the kind of the way that I look at it is everything's a magnetic frequency channel within which there's information, and it's a bit
That's
like
right.
I can tune into Radio One now, or I can choose to Heart FM or whatever.
That's right.
And it seems to me that the structures are deliberately placed, even today. Even today, we talk about these. I think it's very fascinating what you just said about obelisks. Listening to Dan Winter's work, and also like the
I
Vogel
love
quartz.
Dan.
Yeah, and these structures, the actual, the geometry of them makes a difference for how they work.
Sure.
And whether you're talking about a big structure or you're talking about like a little Vogel quartz crystal, the geometry works if you scale it up and scale it down. And I find it fascinating, for instance, that in 2018, there was a lot of work done across the world to commemorate the First World War. And they therefore built obelisks all over the world.
Yeah,
And it's really fascinating because these things are not placed in a place that's convenient for people to assemble and remember the dead. They are placed on roundabouts,
that's
on
right.
churches just to the side. And when you then look at the ley line grid, they're actually placed on strong vortex energetic points, whatever, however you want to call them.
That's right.
So it's still going on today. This is not like it's
I
still.
know we need to pay more attention to what we're standing on. Going to Mars. Mars is for one reason to just see how much gold we can steal off of Mars and bring it here and make ourselves richer.
Mhm,
That's the only reason we're going there. It's a death sentence. I feel sorry for this girl that's done volunteered to be the first person to go to Mars. She ain't coming back,
mhm,
and all they can do to get enough food to get them there on the
mhm.
spaceship. It's such a long journey.
Yeah.
The whole sun gazing thing I got into, my guru was actually examined by NASA in America, in Pennsylvania. And they were trying to see if maybe they could teach astronauts to be sun gazers in space. But the issue there is you can't see the sun in space. The International Space Station has special windows. You can see the sun, but it's been machined to give it a texture that actually catches the frequency of the light.
Mm.
But
Well,
anyway,
you see, I think there's a lot to unpack there, and it depends on your perspective. Now, especially for you, Leo, I've put my Rick and Morty t-shirt on because you're right. Traveling, I don't know if I can do that. Traveling via, portals is probably the best way to go. I think I might have accidentally just lost Leo. So we'll see whether he is still there. No, he's just lost him. He's just going to come back out. So if Leo doesn't come back on, a big shout out to Leo and thank him very much for all of his knowledge. Guys, I really recommend you go and read this book. It'd be like nothing else you've ever read, but it puts everything into context and it is explained beautifully. And if you can go to the Pyramid Conference, all the details are going to be in the links below. please do go and give Leo a big shout out, support him there, and all the other guys and gals releasing information that won't have been there before. So we're going to do another. We're going to do a part. I guess we're going to say it's like part 3, but actually, we're going to keep coming back to Leo and keep unraveling these mysteries. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Much love, and stay grounded.